Welcome back and Merry Christmas everyone! You probably know that feeling when you have your favorite build and you simply can't stop improving it. And that is exactly what I did with my favorite full health build. And I didn't simply improve it, I found a really groundbreaking new glitch that allows you to completely heal yourself every time. And we will totally abuse this trick for this new full health build. And of course we will also incorporate the new 100% headshot engraving which we used in our previous builds already. We will use the 200% Corfu engraving and we will actually mitigate the bad effects of the Corfu engraving not only by using 100% ignore half damage, we'll also add another 75% melee resistance so that we are actually taking less damage than when we would play normally. This will be the first real Corfu tank build that can take up to 10 hits even on Nightmare and completely heals yourself no matter how low your health actually is. This new healing glitch has something to do with the new headshot engraving which you can collect from the Ostraka here on Corfu Island, and the solution, as I already showed you, was in Aleo's village. This new engraving gives you 100% headshot damage but also gives you plus 50% adrenaline consumption. However, as I already showed you, this is not a real 50%, it only costs you an additional half adrenaline bar which is refilled in a matter of seconds anyway. So this engraving has no real negative impact. However, when I used this together with Second Wind, I realized that for Second Wind it kind of counts as 2 adrenaline but only consumes 1.5. So when you use Second Wind, you will normally get 50% health back when you use it, and with the 10% per adrenaline spent, you would normally get a 60% health refill. But with the headshot engraving, it actually counts as if you use 2 complete additional adrenaline, giving you 20% additional healing and 70% in total, even though it only consumed 1.5. A 70% healing rate actually means that you will completely heal as long as your health bar hasn't turned red. And if you play with 25% health and use a 10% health per adrenaline spent, you would normally only get 22.5, still lacking a tiny bit of your health bar. But with the double effect from adrenaline spent, you are now able to completely heal yourself every time when you play with the Falx engraving, which is completely game breaking. So when I tried this with the Falx engraving, I was able to completely heal my 25% health every time I used it, and even normal abilities such as Ring of Chaos will refill your health up to 20% every time now. And that also applies to Devastating Shot, Predator Shot, they will always give you 20% of your health back. So the headshot engraving and the health gain per adrenaline spent mastery is an absolute must-have combination for every build. But now let's check out the damage values for our full health build. Even with all the resistances and engravings in place, I was able to squeeze out 1.7 million damage for the light attack, 2.5 million damage for the heavy attack, 7.7 million damage for the charged attack, 4.4 million damage for Ring of Chaos, up to 15 million damage for Fury of the Bloodline, and between 27 and 30 million damage for the overpower attacks. A fully charged normal arrow will give you up to 4.2 million damage thanks to the headshot engraving, multi-shot will do the same with 4.5, devastating shot will be close to 11 million damage, and the predator shot will deal up to 14 million damage. And even with the normal assassination or rush assassination, you will still be able to one-shot every mercenary in the game. Ares Madness will give you over 9 million damage on the activation blast, and on the Polemark you will get over 32 million damage. Even Hero Strike will deal over 5 million damage. If you are new to Assassin's Creed Odyssey, don't forget to check out our Discord server, and if you want to support this channel, you can also consider to become a Patreon or YouTube member to get access to all the benefits and unique Discord perks. But now I'm really excited to show you the build because it has some unique traits I've never used in this combination. We have 260,000 warrior damage, 650,000 assassin damage, and thanks to the big hand bow we will amplify our left melee weapon by adding all the 6495 DPS, and instead of using the hunter damage, the game will also use the 260,000 warrior damage when you shoot your arrows. So the big hand bow is not only amplifying your warrior damage by a factor of 1.6, it also crazily amplifies your range attacks. That makes it so insanely strong. I know I'm repeating this in every build, but it might be the first one you watch. So the big hand bow is the most important item in the game. Without the big hand bow you will have 100,000 warrior damage less. So you definitely have to get this item by using your 200 free helix credits to get the item from the store. For our left melee weapon we will use a perfect warrior sword such as Hater's Harper with warrior damage, critical damage and damage swords. Since we use a full health build we will definitely go for armor penetration. Armor penetration is one of the biggest damage drivers in the game. It reduces your enemy's armor and therefore increases your damage. So it acts as a reverse multiplier and it is as strong as 100% damage on certain attacks, especially for range attacks and the smaller light and heavy attacks. In general, the weaker an attack is, the more it will benefit from armor penetration. But it doesn't do anything for your assassin damage, but this build has enough assassin damage to even overrun mercenaries on Nightmare. Hater's Harper can be obtained from the A Friend I Need quest in Attica. It is very important that you actually lie to Hater to keep the sword, otherwise you won't get it. If you didn't get the sword, that is also no problem. You can simply go to the blacksmith and reload the blacksmith until you get a sword with the same engravings. When you do that, you don't have to care about the pictures or the name of the weapons or items, just go for the correct engravings. If you get lucky, you get a second perfect epic warrior sword, such as the Hoplite sword I have here with warrior damage, critical damage and damage swords. And on the second one, you should engrave convert 50% hunter damage to all damage. By doing that, we will convert the not used hunter damage to become actually usable warrior and assassin damage. If you used any of the other two damage conversions, you would have less warrior or less assassin damage. But since we don't use our hunter damage anyway with the bighorn bow, the hunter conversion is the best. On the bighorn bow we will engrave the 100% headshot damage and 50% adrenaline consumption. I know this engraving can also be placed on armor items, but on the armor items we need all the room for ignore half damage, melee resistance and the Corfu engraving, so we don't have any room left and we have to engrave it on our bow. As already explained, this engraving can be looted from Corfu Island. You have to collect the Ostraka and the solution for that is in Alienos village. For the helmet we will use the perfect warrior helmet as usual with warrior damage, 20% crit chance, 20% damage swords and daggers and 30% damage swords. The bracers will be the unique stolen ISO bracers with assassin damage, 10% crit chance, 20% crit chance while full health, so this is the only item in the game that has a total of 30% crit chance on a single item. That makes it incredibly unique, and here we will engrave the first 30% melee resistance. However, if you are struggling with assassinating your mercenaries with a normal assassination, or if you simply want more damage in your build, then you could also go for 100% crit damage at full health. But I really recommend you to use 30% melee resistance here, because that will make your build much tankier. The stone ISO bracers can be found in the third episode of the Atlantis DLC. They are part of a story mission and they are not missable. On the belt we have warrior damage, 100% crit damage at full health, 40% ignore half damage. That is needed to get a total of 100% ignore half damage, and here we will use another 30% melee resistance. For the torso we will use the resort shoulder pads from the Corfu DLC. This is the only chest piece in the game that has chance to ignore half damage, and that allows us to get 100% chance to ignore half damage without having to use this engraving on our helmet. So we can go all in on damage swords on our helmet and still be able to use 100% ignore half damage in our build. The resort shoulder pads can be obtained when you finish the Corfu Island DLC. When you reload your save file after finishing the Corfu Island DLC, you will have this item in your inventory. And finally on the boots we will use warrior damage, 20% crit chance while full health, 100% critical damage, and the Corfu engraving with 100% all damage but minus 100% resistances. As already explained, there was no other room to get the headshot engraving on any of our armor pieces because critical damage and melee resistance was way better. In order to get this engraving you have to collect the Ostraka from the Colidi farm on Corfu Island, and the solution for that will be at the northeast of the map. With this build, even at full health, you will have a total of 545% warrior damage, 425% assassin damage, we have a whopping 265% headshot damage, the maximum 140% damage swords, of course we have 100% crit chance, 525% critical damage, and we are only sitting at negative 25% melee resistance. But together with a 100% chance to ignore half damage, we are actually sitting at 37.5% melee resistance, because we are literally 125% away from 0 damage, and if we cut that in half, we end up at 37.5. So I tried to show you how to get from minus 25 to actually plus 37.5, so I hope you understand what this is actually doing. This build will require around 250 points in the base variant, and I strongly recommend you to watch the mastery ability distribution because this is quite different than usual. For the standard abilities, you should pick Sixth Sense, because that slows down time, allows you to easily hit your enemies and even assassinate your enemies, unlock the poison and fire arrows, then go for multi-shot, devastating shot and predator shot. Multi-shot is best for conquered battles, while devastating shot is the easiest one to use, but if you want the highest damage, then you have to go for predator shot. Definitely go for Archery Master, because Archery Master is refilling your first adrenaline segment, and with the abilities needing a little bit more than one adrenaline, refilling the half-filled adrenaline is really important. So this is one of the most important abilities to get with this build. The Overpower Bow Strike doesn't work with the Bighorn Bow, it only deals very little damage, so you only get 1 point there to unlock the Ghost Arrows of Artemis. In the Warrior tree you should go for Charged Heavy Attack. The tooltip says it's dealing only 150%, but in reality you will actually deal 300%, so it is much better than actually written here. Of course, grab all the passive bonuses from Weapons Master and Gear Master, then go for the flaming attacks. If you want to use your fire often, then you go for 3 points. If you only want to grab the fire damage perks, then get 1 point here and only grab the 40% from the fire mastery. You can actually choose to engrave permanent fire damage on your weapon instead of armor penetration, but armor penetration will actually give you more damage for this build. Of course, we go for the top-notch abilities, dealing the most damage here with Overpower and Ares Madness, then Furious Bloodline, Ring of Chaos, and of course Second Wind. And Second Wind, as it's written here, will normally only heal 50%, but with the trick shown here, with the health gain per adrenaline spent, and with increased adrenaline consumption, we can actually make this a solid 70%, which is so much better than the usual 50%. Of course, in the Assassin tree we go for Shadow Assassin, increased assassin damage, and even more important, the increased critical damage. Rush Assassination will be your go-to assassin ability. If you are struggling to assassinate mercenaries with a normal assassination, you don't have to go for a critical assassination, you can just simply use a Rush Assassination or even a Hero Strike. That is also an alternative if you don't have the Furious Bloodline ability. Definitely don't forget to get Stealth Master, because Stealth Master will increase all your damage by 10% overnight and also eliminates all the noises from your footsteps. For the mastery points, this time we will start with the bottom one, with the Assassin tree, because it is much more important to get these abilities and I don't want you to miss this. Health gained per adrenaline spent should definitely be maxed, as well as chance to ignore half damage, no matter how low on points you are. These are simply so important to max out the healing trick and to get all your damage reduced by 50% every time. Then of course you should also go for the usual critical damage at full health, the critical chance at full health, and the biggest damage driver here in the whole build will be Damage's Swords as usual. Then in the Warrior tab you should go for a couple of points on Warrior damage. You can spend a couple of points on health and armor, but it is not needed. It will actually benefit your build and your healing abilities, but the must have here is definitely melee resistance. You can spend a couple of points on armor penetration and damage dealt restored as health, but if you are low on points, only really go for melee resistance here in this tree. The rest can be ignored if you don't have enough points. Since we use hunter damage conversion, getting a couple of points on hunter damage also can't hurt. Then definitely go for a crit chance and also use a moderate amount of points on the critical damage and headshot damage. If you have way more than 200 or 250 points, of course you can max out all this stuff. Also get a couple of points on the hunter abilities, range resistance, adrenaline on headshot kill, even a couple of points on damage with hunter abilities. You can also max out warrior damage, max out all the health, armor, resistance, fire damage, armor penetration, also damage dealt restored as health, and even a couple of points on damage with all warrior abilities if you want to. And in the assassin tree you can also go for damage whenever time is slowed down. For assassin damage, max out Damage's Swords, the critical stuff, damage while full health. Of course, still very important is to get the chance to ignore half damage maxed out. You can also go for melee resistance, a couple of the adrenaline stuff, and then of course health gained per adrenaline spent. The ignore half damage and the health gained per adrenaline spent is what makes this build so special and so extremely good. I hope you really like this build. Please don't forget to subscribe, leave me a like, and see you next time.